Welcome to the Leadership Art Podcast. I'm your host, Robbins, and it's great to have you join us. The Leadership Art Podcast features insightful conversations with industry leaders who lead with purpose. Our mission is to inspire you to be the best leader you can be. And today's guest has spent more than 20 years driving business development, innovation, and digital transformation on a truly global scale. Nicolas Votano serves as Chief Business Officer at OJIN, where he leads global commercial expansion of immersive AI and digital experience solutions for some of the world's leading brands, including BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Clinique, and the Ministry of Culture of Saudi Arabia. Before that journey, Nicolas spent over 15 years in consulting, delivering growth and innovation strategies internationally, including time as an associate partner at Frost & Sullivan, advising global enterprises on technology, digital transformation, and growth. He's also an international keynote speaker, having presented at major industry events. Nico, welcome to the Leadership Art Podcast.
Art, thank you so much for having me in this podcast. I'm very excited. I think that will be a great discussion. Long introduction, so it makes me feel a little bit old, but let's see. Thank you for that.
Nico and I go back a long way, audience. I can assure you he is not old. He has a very youthful, energetic spirit, and you have a very strong, innovative mindset. So we're anxious to tap that and hear all about it today.
I wanted to also, before starting, thank you for your permanent support over the time. We go back a long time ago, 20 years ago, and I think that's something important to know because you know me since I'm very junior, and now it's time to have this discussion about lesson learned and so on. So I'm very careful of and respectful of my past. So I think that it's a great moment to have together. Thank you.
Oh, value that as well. And yeah, I think we were trying to figure out when we first met, and it was almost 20 years ago when you joined Frost, and you're based in France, but you also did a stint in the US, and I traveled to New York often, and we got to see each other quite a bit and work closely together. Yeah, it's really a privilege when you forge relationships that can transcend years and also roles. A lot of people lose touch of each other when they change jobs, but it's great that we were able to stay in touch. And that's a good lesson for everyone out there. Stay in touch with the people you have valuable relationships with today. It pays off in the long run.
100%.
Great. As I said in the introduction, the main objective of our podcast is to really inspire current and future leaders to live up to their full potential. And we love to do that by talking with inspirational leaders like yourself and learning about your journey and your experiences, what some of your key leadership principles are, and what are some of the lessons learned from that. So yeah, we were anxious to share that. And I think one of the exciting things when we were catching up and you were telling me about your current work at OJIN is you're really at the leading edge of AI solutions and thought leadership, and AI has been a great topic. I wonder if maybe you could share with us some of the things that you've been working on recently, and also what makes you personally excited about that space.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's a great question. Obviously, AI for the last, let's say, 18 months is a really hot topic, and everybody's talking about AI because it's becoming. Absolutely. So my first comment will be what is really exciting from my side is I'm working on something very applicative. I'm working on the business application of AI, meaning how AI can be a real added value to the enterprise companies we are working with. And what we do at OJIN, we build the UX of AI. So we try to...
The user interface.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We try to build a layer that is putting a face and a real-time emotional reaction to digital humans that are here to support, help, accelerate the work of anybody in any company. What is exciting is that we are seeing this this wave with early adopters, then becoming mainstream, then becoming super exciting. But what is personally exciting is that you have to be a little bit resilient when you work on these type of topics, because it's about educating your audience, educating your employees, educating your clients to something that is disruptive in their day-to-day life. So that I like a lot because it's still entrepreneurship mindset. And once you pass this first milestone and it becomes mainstream, then you surf a wave that you, at your humble level, contributed to start. So that part of the process is really exciting to me.
Yeah. And you talk about resilience, that's been a recurring theme. Actually, AI has been a recurring theme on many of our episodes. Like, as we all know, it's so hot. But resilience has really been a driving principle for so much innovation because you never know what's going to happen. You're doing something new, you're doing something for the first time, and you have to be willing to adopt and deal with the unknown, change direction, make mistakes, learn from the mistakes, all of the above. And we've seen this across many different industries. We've seen it in pharmaceuticals and medical devices and renewable energy. It's just a common theme across all industries.
Look, for me, there are two key values over time that are, let's say, critical in any aspects of your day-to-day job when you do what we do. Number one is resilience, and it's very important because the no is your day-to-day life. And when you get a yes, okay, let's go, let's do it, let's build something together. That's an exceptional moment. But this exceptional moment, by definition, is not your day-to-day reality. And when you understand this, let's say, setup, then you need to be resilient. You need to be linear in terms of emotional state, in terms of motivation, ambition. So resilience for me is number one criteria. If I hire a salesperson, I want somebody resilient, ambitious, and humble. And the second value is humility. It's very important when you work on these disruptive topics to understand that we don't know what we don't know. Nobody knows, but we are here to investigate, experiment, try. And if you do it without the flexibility of humility, meaning, okay, I don't know everything. I have a vision, I have a plan. However, maybe my vision is wrong. Maybe my plan is not perfect. And if you are too rigid because of your ego, you cannot grow in this uncertain paradigm. It's impossible. So yes, resilience, humility, those values are critical to me when you lead a team, a company, or whatever.
Yeah. There's an old adage that says, wisdom is knowing what you don't know.
Exactly. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Love it.
it's very true. I'm just curious when you were talking about looking for other people, looking for a talent to join your team with humility and with resilience. How do you determine that when you're evaluating the candidates?
To me, the hiring moment, or when you bring a talent in your company, it's probably one of the most important moments in terms of the probability that you have to be successful or fail. Why? Because my calculation is very simple. Your company is the average of the level of your talents, right? So you have to be super, let's say, hard and tough when you hire somebody in terms of the level, the intellectual level is one. But more important to me is the emotional intelligence, the capacity of this talent to understand that a startup is not a big company, is not a medium-sized company. So this agility, right? Now, to your point, how do I measure this? It's very often, you've been there before, it's very common kind of to find super smart brains, super smart talents, people that are technically speaking perfect. You've been there before, you've seen these type of consultants, they are incredible, right? So the same type of talents being a little bit lost in translation in front of real use cases, real clients when it comes to be emotionally smart. be able to adapt yourself to the room, to the audience. So my way of doing it is, okay, if we are speaking together at this stage, it's because you are a great intellectual talent. You have a nice brain. Now, what we need is to double check if you are a nice human. And let's go into personal discussions. Let's go into, I want to know who you are as a person. And it's not a trick. It's a real honest, transparent discussion, which is very often, let's say, very efficient to evaluate the person you have in front of you, right? Because there is no plan. There is nothing preparing you to have a real, transparent, honest, who you are discussion. That's my way of doing it.
I think if you have a strong sense of self-awareness yourself, you know your principles, you know your values, and you have this internal radar where you could tell when you're talking to someone. You have to get to know them, right? But you could tell that they're aligned with your principles and values. Humility is a value. Resilience is a trait, but it's also a value too. You can detect it if you talk to someone long enough. Just take an example of someone, you want someone who is people oriented and human centric. He's not an authoritarian leader, right? He's not an ego driven or narcissistic leader. You're talking to someone, you ask about their accomplishments. Is he or she using the first person or the second person or the third person? Right? If all he talks in the first person, you say, this guy's not a team player, right? It's all about me, myself, and I. I mean, these are things that are difficult to hide.
But you also mentioned something very important in your introduction. You
Mhm,
talked about purpose, right?
mhm.
And let's say that if I had to extract one of the key evaluation points, I always try to understand the purpose behind the purpose, because there is
Yes.
always the official purpose. I love your company. I really admire your product. I think that your positioning is great on the market. All these things for me are technical arguments, technical purpose. However, when you go deeper into what I call the honest, transparent discussion, very often you have different type of purpose. You have the money, you have the ambition to grow, but sometimes you have purposes like, hey, listen, for me, I want to be an example for my kid, or I want to build a legacy for my family, or XYZ. And depending on the real purpose behind the purpose, then you can start evaluating the small weak signals that tells you, okay, there is resilience here because the purpose is bigger than the person. That's
Right. And they'll deal with all the obstacles, curves in the road in order to achieve that purpose. That won't
exactly.
detain them. They'll figure out, how do I overcome these roadblocks?
And very often when I discuss about these topics with my CEO, my colleague CEO, and so on, I always talk about, is it a fabricated, but is it
Yep.
something that is built artificial, or is it something that is anchored in your DNA because you build this purpose on a day-to-day basis without knowing it? And if it's anchored as a DNA, resilience won't be a problem because that's your life purpose.
Mhm.
Very often, the most impressive leaders or clients I've met in my life, they all built a dimension beyond themselves. The important is not myself as a person. The important is, what is the mission I want to achieve in order to have a footprint
Right.
somewhere.
No, they're very focused on achieving the purpose, and also they're very focused on not doing the things that don't support achieving that purpose, because we all have limited time. So you have to know what's valuable and what's not valuable. And you say, why is this leader so effective? To your point, they're so focused on that purpose, they can filter out everything that's going to deter them from achieving that.
100%. Yeah.
That's a fantastic lesson. How did you get interested in this whole innovation space in the first place?
Okay, there are two ways of answering this question, but both are connected. Okay, there is the let's say, the official path that was by accident, right? I was a young salesperson in Italy right after school.
Okay.
And one of my rugby teammates was talking about Frost and Sullivan, the company where we met. And it was like, hey, Nico, we are searching for a salesperson for our innovation division. At the time, I was like, I don't know what it means. However, I know that I'm a salesperson, so let's try to adapt to the topic. I will probably be able to get an interesting coating with an innovation flavor, and that's it. That was the entry point.
Okay.
Now,
And you wound up working for Frost in France. You're in France now.
yeah, I was based in Italy. I moved to France in order to start with this innovation path. But the real purpose, I think, was since I'm a kid, I'm very curious, not super intelligent, but very curious, like
Mhm.
obsessive. Something is interesting in terms of intellectual appetite. I can spend weeks trying to really understand what I'm talking about because I hate fake expertise.
And you're a
So,
very genuine person. So we could
yeah,
understand
I
why
mean,
you would hate the fake.
and I try to be
You
as
have great fake radar. You could spot it a mile away.
and I would probably do not hesitate mentioning it if I spot it, right? My point is innovation is fascinating because you're always learning on a daily basis. You never know everything. So for me, it was a fantastic way to keep being interested on a daily basis, discovering new things, increasing my knowledge around topics where I was like, okay, that's fascinating. I don't understand anything, but I can understand if I deep dive into the topic. And if you remember at Frost, the innovation division was cross industries.
That's
So
right.
you have to understand the technology and innovation cross industries, meaning that it's never ending. It's a never ending
Mhm.
learning curve. That's why I'm still in innovation today, right?
That one of the beauties of that is you had the ability to connect the dots because you had this broad industry view of a technology, and different industries operate at different paces. So you might see a technology being applied in the healthcare industry, maybe some advanced sensor technology that could have applicability to the energy industry. And you had early visibility to that, and you could really drive brand new innovation in a whole different industry just by virtue of having that broad perspective.
Yeah, and it brings the creativity angle, the part of your brain that is imagining or dreaming of some potential outcomes around the technology. The nice thing is that you stated it, your early stage, so you can try to anticipate, you can try to imagine, you can dream with clients building new things. And that's for me, that's very comfortable. That's exactly what I love. What I hate is being in a mono product, mono technology, mono industry, mono business model, 10 years. That for me
Yeah.
is dying, right?
Especially this day and age, you can't stand still for 10 years. You'll become obsolete. It's a
Of course,
surefire formula to become obsolete.
of course, and it's very easy to become obsolete. It's very easy because once you are an expert into a specific topic, it's a kind of a comfort zone to develop this expertise, build on top of it, be recognized for it. However, in my space, you cannot sleep on a specific topic. You have to be on top of it on a weekly basis. So the pace and the momentum is also very different. You cannot think about it on a year. A year is an eternity into the tech and disruptive technologies like AI. So you have to stay young, right? The topic force you to remain with your 20, 25 years old mindset and be trained on a
Yeah.
daily basis.
And you've done a great job staying in the innovation space and having a bigger and bigger impact as you go along. One of the things that's so curious about AI, and it's come up a lot in my conversations with clients and in these episodes, is everyone recognizes how disruptive it is. Everyone's trying to do something with it. And the success rate of the projects to date is so low. It's mind-boggling how low it is. People are really struggling to figure out what do I have to do as a leader to ensure that my AI projects are successful? And we've communicated some points of view on that, but I'm wondering what your perspective on that is.
I think it relates to first a topic that is very often non-mentioned or not discussed or not debated into big companies I'm working with, from top management to the most junior people. Everybody has in mind, okay, am I replaced? Am I replaced by this technology, or is it something that will help me be better, right? It sounds like a no-brainer, but I can tell you, I worked with very big organizations where employees, they don't know if they are in competition or if AI is in support of their day-to-day life. So it means that from the beginning, you have to bring, let's say, a corporate overall vision of the why. Why do we want to implement AI beyond cutting costs or accelerate processes or replace real human on some part of the processes? That's number one. I think that's the starting point, because if you don't do that, this gray area will become, let's say, a proactive barrier to adoption. Number two, I believe that most of the companies I'm working with, they use AI for two big reasons. One, increase profitability, or two, increase revenue, right? And if you think about it as a value chain, cross value chain, some part of AI implementation are, let's say, easier than others. I'll give you a concrete example. When you implement AI into internal processes and AI remain internal only, right? You can have this barrier or these problems, but you can easily train, explain, accelerate the process internally. Now, when it comes to AI implemented at external level, sales development, marketing, communication, I believe at the moment, the maturity of AI on external topics is too low in order to risk your brand equity. So from what I'm seeing, it will change in 6 months, in 1 year, in 2 years. But at the moment, the slow pace of AI implementation is one, employee doubts, let's say, some of the employees are scared. Number two, brand equity is so high. For example, a BMW it's very step by step using AI in order to replace their real car model into a public advertising campaign. It's taking time. You have to be very sure it's a heritage you're putting at stake when you use AI to this purpose. So that's normal. This is part of the process. But again, in 2 years, it will be a different paradigm. Again, resilience, right? I think this wave will stop in maybe 2 years, and we will have a totally different discussion in 2 years if we have the same debate, right?
So we've had a premise or a mantra that we've used in the past on this platform where we say that AI success or failure is not a technology problem, it's a leadership problem. And that the technology can pretty much do whatever you want it to do. The question is, should it do everything that it can do or everything that you want it to do? Or have you as a leader really done the sufficient homework to properly define what you want AI to do? If you just slop AI on top of a broken system or a marginally performative system, you'll get marginal results. You might even get worse results. If you do the hard work and say, I have a technology now that allows me to deliver a level of value to my customers that I've never been able to deliver in the past. And I can create more value. I can, for the customer, for the company, more competitive advantage, but I have to do the hard work to figure out how will I redefine my business? How will I redeploy my people? How will I leverage the AI technology to make that happen? And by the way, no one else is doing this, so I have to figure it out myself. It's not like I can open a textbook.
For me, that's the real interest or the future of consulting companies that wants to tackle the AI topic. I think let's say the macro strategy piece is quite well covered now, right? There's a lot of Accentures of the world, the BCGs of the world, the Bain of the world. They have the methodology to map the, let's say, the topic at enterprise level. But where I agree with you, for me, the future of AI consulting, it comes to a more operational level. I'll give you an example. I worked with a company called Luxeol, that is a cosmetic company in France. And the CEO, the question was, okay, I need to understand how, where, and why should I use AI in my company from R&D to marketing. So on the whole value chain, right?
Yeah.
But he faced something very interesting. The head of research, her job was to discover new ingredients or new formulas and so on. And he was like, oh, but maybe this job is not needed anymore because with AI, I can have the result of 2 months of discovery phase in, let's say, 2 hours, right? But his first reaction wasn't, oh, so I can fire my head of research because now I have AI. No, his first reaction was, oh, now I can explain to my head of research that he can spend time on high added value tasks.
Right,
And
right.
maybe we can have 10 product release per quarter versus 2 in the past. And that's the type of micro analysis where you need to deep dive with the CEO of a company and explain at each part and each level of the value chain that your job is changing, but for good, not for bad, for good. You will spend time on super great things while AI will.
I think that's a great example. And like you were saying, there's certainly a whole value chain. But if you've never done AI before, don't tackle the entire value chain. Pick a slice of it, pick a manageable project. So maybe the process here is the selection of ingredients for their drug discovery. And
Yeah,
how can I optimize that process? How can I better leverage the people in that, get the people on board, make them see a vision that, oh, my job is going to be even better with this tool. This
yeah.
tool is going to assist me so my domain can add more value to the company. Not that my job is going to be replaced. Now, some jobs will be replaced. There's no question about that. But again, having a strategy that, hey, if there are valuable people in these jobs, we can retool these people to do better jobs.
Think about the car industry and mechanics. Like 40 years ago, they were expert into engines, like classical engine. Electrical vehicle comes on board. Now your job as a mechanic has changed completely. You need to be retooled, you need to learn new processes, you need to learn new methodologies, but you're still very important in the process because you have to deliver, you have to solve the problem of the car, right? So there is one thing that is I'm seeing on a daily basis is it's not easy, but it's simpler to define an AI strategy, harder to go at operational level, even harder to train, coach your teams to the new tools that are, released on a weekly basis because they cannot keep the pace. They are overwhelmed by all the toolbox that you could use in order to transform your day-to-day job into, let's say, a 1 month day. You can do something today that was taking you a month without this toolbox, but you need to be trained on these tools. For I don't know for you, for me, it took a little bit of time to use Claude or ChatGPT or any other AI tool on a day-to-day basis. I had to discover it myself, but there is no training program that is released in most of the companies I'm working with just to train these people to the new tools they have to use, right?
No, again, I think that's where the hard work comes is in redefining the workflow. That realistically, maybe you don't want a worker to know all the tools. They just need to know, hey, here's some prompts that the company has set up for me that's going to enable me to do a much better job. He doesn't even have to know how the prompt was created. He just needs to know what his interaction with the prompt should be.
And, and that's why for the last few months, I want to say maybe the last 6 months, I'm seeing a lot more head of AI transformation or chief AI officer, but at implementation level. But these jobs 6 months ago were very small and not confidential, but the companies were like, why do I need a chief AI officer? If every department can use AI, I will distribute this capacity or this capability. But if you really want to accelerate the path, you need a person in charge with a horizontal vision, able to implement all these microprocesses cross value chain in order to make it happen. But that's a technical discussion we can have for hours, right?
Yeah, we probably will need to have another episode because there's so much to talk about. But how do you envision this playing out? If you had to fast forward, what do you think the big developments will be that we should be thinking about now in the
Well,
implementation of AI?
yeah, for me, my bet is that my generation will be I'm 43, will be very obsolete in 2 years. And then,
Okay, so you're technically a millennial?
of course, and
Yes, okay, okay.
but I have a kid of 7 years old. He's 7 years old. But for him, what we are discussing at the moment for him would be like, why are you even debating about these things? That's my natural, native environment. We are using computer today, and probably 40 years ago, it was like, yeah, but how do I use these things? So I'm not ready for these change and so on. So my bet would be huge generational impact for future generations, but they won't even understand it because they will be born into it, right?
It will be natural. I could see I have a 3-year-old grandson, and for the past year, he's learned how to swipe and click and double click. He knows all of that.
Better than us,
Yeah,
right?
and it's natural. He doesn't understand. He'll go up to a computer or to the TV and he'll try to swipe and click. They say, no, that appliance isn't set up that way today.
Now,
But 2 years from now, probably will be set up where you could swipe anything that has a screen.
but then I have two big concern, or not concern, but I see two sides of the coin. My first big fear is it's very easy to not think by yourself when you can use powerful tools like AI. It's very easy to be intellectually lazy. That for me is
Yes.
a concern
Yes.
at my level for myself, but also for my kid. I want him to be able to think, to be to have this level of criticism, understand build his own opinion. I'm a little bit worried on that side with AI because everything is templatized and easy to get as that's the answer. But maybe
I
one
think that's a great, I think that's a great concern you raise, Nico, is this whole talk about critical thinking becoming obsolete is a real fear. Well, what advice would you give to leaders who are implementing these projects, and the projects are going to be larger in scale, to ensure that critical thinking is part of the outcome, humans in the loop at the right point in the loop is part of the outcome. What advice would you give leaders on how to approach?
Well, yeah, for me, the advice or the discussion I'm having with C-levels into client company, there is a recurring theme that is never forget the human genius. There is something at the center of our history, our life, that's the human genius is critical. And then the tool to support this creativity, this imagination, this capacity to build is just a tool. It's not replacing the human genius. So that's one angle. And also had the debate, I wanted to connect to another topic that is, okay, I include you, we love books,
Mhm.
right? Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and I was wondering, is my kid in the future a no-book kid? Because it will become something like so old with AI. And after, when you think about it, AI is a fantastic way to connect you directly to knowledge. So maybe tomorrow he will be able to discuss with, I don't know, Platon, Pythagoras, or any other source of
Hmm.
knowledge directly connecting with him and explaining the rationale behind the theory. That's a beautiful word to discover. But again, for
But
me,
still read the book,
but let's
right? Don't take the agent's word for it, right? Read the book and form
let's read the
opinions.
book. Let's also challenge your intellect, your capacity to understand. Okay, that's a book. What can I do with this? What can I build? What can I dream of with this book? And that's for me a critical part. Most of the leaders working in AI, they are, I don't want to say, it's very important to combine your intellect and also, okay, what is the emotional impact AI will have on my teams, on their brain, on their capacity to create? That is another layer of project implementation, if you want, right? But that's critical.
I had a conversation a few weeks ago with an ultra techie person, and he asserted that by the year 2040, AI will be able to do everything that a human being can do. And he included, believe it or not, he included intimacy in that statement.
I don't
What's
want
your,
this. I don't want
this is a family podcast, so we don't have to go into details about that part, but his point was AI will do everything human. What's your reaction to that?
My first reaction emotionally is I don't want to be in this world, right? Even if I'm in AI on a day-to-day basis, I think it's a little bit sad, right? But my second reaction would be if we put some ethics, some vision, and some human values at the heart of this fantastic technology that is growing on a daily basis, I believe that some fantastic things can be achieved. Example, cancer, AIDS, all these diseases that are traumatizing generations of people and families, and maybe tomorrow it will be uh, a no problem at all, right? That word, I want to know it. I want to know it not for me, for my kid. I would love him to understand, hey, oh, I just have a cancer, just take this pill and you're fine. It's changing the face of the world because of AI. But it also means that the purpose, the human genius, the capacity to control this it's very hard to control this exponential universe of technology. We need to put some limits. Now, how to make this happen? Governance, control, limitations, that I don't know art, but that's the type of world that I would love to live in, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I would think, I would hope that there would be some ethical standards, some regulations, not overbearing, but there's a place for things that need to be done by humans, and there's a place for things that can be done by technology. And again, I keep going back to the leaders. Since there's no precedent, we need people to step up and take a leadership position on this and make things happen so it truly is a tool that can better society and better the world. And the potential is there. And I think the potential is there for humans to perform and live a much more fruitful, productive, purpose-driven life because of it. But it's
Oh,
all in the details, right? It's all in the implementation, and it's up to
but
us to make it happen. And
as a conclusion or opening topic for the next podcast,
next
there's
podcast.
one question that is an obsession to me working in AI is, can you imagine a world where you, me, nobody needs to work? Because work issue has been solved, right? And just imagine what would be your life is if work wasn't a task that you need to focus on a daily basis because you have the AI doing the job and a business model that is solving this problem of recurring payroll on a monthly basis. Now, your purpose, your life, your day-to-day activities, everything would be different, but maybe that's the type of society we could imagine if we dream, right?
Mhm.
Not tomorrow, but that's a possibility.
Yeah. And then it gets back to what your definition of work there is. Is the work all the necessary tasks to achieve a purpose? If my life's mission is to achieve a purpose and I build a business to that, of course, the business needs payroll, supply chain, whatever, right? But the real value I can provide is not doing the payroll, it's having the vision and the outreach to help my purpose be fulfilled, interacting with people like yourself and others. And if we could have technology do the menial stuff with proper human oversight, that would be very cool.
I think that you're already lucky to be this self-awareness and this capacity to understand that when you wake up in the morning, you're working toward your purpose, right? But if you think about it at global level, population level, how many people are waking up in the morning saying, okay, I'm doing this job because I want or because that's my mission in life? I would say
Right.
maybe it's 80-20, right?
Yes.
And what would be the word if every human being was using on their own purpose, being art, being culture, being music, being business, being technology, being whatever, right? Sustainability. I believe we would go probably toward a fantastic world where happiness would be high. But that is dream, that is a little bit of fantasy, right? But that's the kind
But
of world we could land.
it's being discussed. I actually responded to someone a couple of weeks ago on this exact topic. They were commenting how students are coming out of school and they're going into professions that they perceive are making the most money. And it's not necessarily aligned with anything they want to do, but they're being performative, right? They're expected to go into some of these professions. A lot of them are STEM professions, and because they have the highest salary and they're not aligned with their personal interests or values or creativity. And the question that came out of that was, what would happen to the world if people were trained in college to do what they were really passionate about? You'd have a happiness index go up, but would the overall GDP go up also? Would the health index go up also? Just because people are happier and more fulfilled? It's an unanswered question, but it's worth the conversation.
It was the conversation. I think I read a quote yesterday or 2 days ago about Jeff Bezos changing completely his purpose. I think first part of his life, his dream was, I want to be on top of the power rank, being financial, being position, being whatever. Read his last purpose. I think it was 2 days ago. He said, I want to contribute to come back to a natural, healthy, and purpose-driven society. I think what is happening, it's again weak signal, but I think what is happening is when you reach this level of success and when you understand that money is not replacing your intimate purpose and is not making you, of course it's helping, right? But that's not because you're the richest that you're the happiest, right? Then he said, now I'm comfortable enough to really chase what I want to achieve as an individual. I've done everything. Now I'm free. I'm free from myself. I'm free from my ego. I'm free from my ambitions and dreams. Now I can really dream for a better world. And I think this is what is happening today with Jeff Bezos. To be double checked, maybe
Oh,
again.
that's actually great to hear. And I hope many successful people, there's obviously degrees that we could do that given our financial position. But if everyone can move the needle in that direction to the degree they can, that would make a big impact. That's a great takeaway, Nico. We talked about so many different topics today. What is the one key takeaway you would the future leaders out there to walk away with?
For future leaders, meaning it's always, for me, the most important is, again, I'm back to the human being. I'm back to the values. I'm back to the emotions. I'm back to, let's say, never pretend, really understand yourself, and also always try to read the human you are working with, being an employee, being a client, being a partner. For me, my takeaway is e- emotional intelligence will always surpass your intellectual capacity to discuss during hours in a workshop with a client. Because in the end, the human is at the center. Being in the AI topic, being in the negotiation topic, partnership topic, always try to deep dive into the human being you have in front of you. That would be my biggest takeaway.
That's a great takeaway. And I'm a big fan of human-centered leadership as well. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And thank you for all the insights and the stimulating conversation. I think we might need to have another episode about this. You open up the door of so many other things we could be talking about.
Whenever. Thank you so much for your time.
No,
I
it was
really,
great,
really
Nikos.
enjoyed
And
it.
thank you again for being a guest today on our podcast, and to all of the listeners and the followers of the Leadership Art Podcast. I want to thank you so much for joining us and your continued support. And by the way, if you want to read about more inspiring stories, check out our new book, Leadership Art, Certain Leadership in an Age of Uncertainty, which is available on Amazon in all formats. So until the next episode of the Leadership Art Podcast, this is your host, Art Robbins, and remember, it's your lead.